People I don't. We will be recording this morning because people, hi Pip, are going to be able to join and watch later on. So we'll just keep letting folks in. We'll be recording. Welcome this morning to our first session for this week-long symposium. We're so glad that you're here and that you'll be joining us to talk about and celebrate home visiting this week. The entire week is filled with a variety of information and ideas about home visiting. If you miss any session, we're going to be sending you the link so you can watch it later. And if you can join live, we'll hope that you'll be participating with questions, with comments. Feel free to use the chat. Mari's going to be watching that. And if you have any technical issues, you can put that in the chat directly to Mari or email her. She'll put her email in the chat also if you have any specific challenges. So each session, we're going to be focusing on topics that are really relevant to all home visiting. We will be putting in some information about firstborn because that's the model that we're most familiar with and that we work with here at the Santa Fe Community College. But we're hoping that this will really be useful and informative and fun for everyone. And my name is Tekla Johnson. I'm the director of the Firstborn Model Office and Training Institute here at Santa Fe Community College. I'll be presenting today with two colleagues, and we're going to start out with some presentations, then watch a video from families talking about what home visiting has been like for them, what it's meant for them, hear from families directly, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end if people have questions. So, Katrin.
Hi, Tekla, would you like me to go ahead?
Just introduce yourself, and then Molly will, and then you'll go. Yeah.
Great. My name is Katrin Allred, and I'm the director of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence at Santa Fe Community College.
Hi, I'm Molly McBranch. I work as a contractor at the Firstborn Model Office, and I was formerly the program manager of the Firstborn program in Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Great. Thanks. So before we jump into what we want to share today, a couple quick housekeeping things about Zoom and this environment being online. Zoom can have issues, so we're hoping for good, stable connection. But if you have trouble, again, Mari's available to you if it's on your end. If it's on our end, just find your link again, reconnect if that's what we need to do. Welcome, Shayna. I see you there. And again, if you want to watch today's session later, we will be sending out the link. We do have trainings and some upcoming job opportunities, some that will be fully remote, some that will be partially remote. So we're hoping we'll get folks from across the state interested in those job positions. And all of that's going to be coming out in our monthly newsletter. So if you're not already signed up for that, definitely make a connection with that. And we'll put the link in the chat for you to find that. So lots of ways to stay connected, and we're hoping this was the beginning of even more conversation about home visiting. And Katrin's going to start us off.
Thank you, Tekla. Hi, everybody, and to those who are just starting to join us, thank you for attending the Firstborn Home Visiting Symposium this week. I'm really thrilled to be kicking off this week's event with today's opening discussion. Again, my name is Katrin Allred, and I'm the director of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence at Santa Fe Community College. I think it's also really fitting that we're celebrating Firstborn Home Visiting during the National Association for the Education of Young Children's Week of the Young Child. This is a great week to do a deep dive into the importance of children and families in our community, and also really think about how home visiting strengthens these relationships. Home visiting is the foundation of our early care and education system in the state that sets families up for thriving futures. When we think about what it is to raise a child, we always hear that it takes a village. And to me, home visiting is an essential part of that village ecosystem that provides the support that we all need. So home visiting supports our children and families so that they can thrive and build on the strength of every family in our community. It's the mission of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence to support two-generation approaches to enhance the well-being of families and early care and education across New Mexico. And we do this through various programs to support early care and education. and also supporting access to higher education for student parents at SFCC, and also through our Kids Campus, which is an early care and education center. But to me, when we think about two-generation strategies, Firstborn is the perfect example of how we meet that mission by supporting parents and children to affect change in our community. And one of the great benefits we have at the Early Childhood Center of Excellence is that we are located at Santa Fe Community College, and we're able to support training, certificates, access to degrees within the field of early childhood and home visiting, and also helping our families transition to higher education to attain those certificates and degrees that help with economic mobility. And so we really look forward to how we can do this through Firstborn and ECHO in an amazing partnership. And as we look to the future, we're really thinking about what that means as far as access to higher education, and how Firstborn could potentially expand access for student parents in the field of higher education. And so I also would really love to thank all of you for being here, and our legislators and advocates. We would not be here without the amazing support that we get from the community, and having strong advocates plays a huge role in us being able to deliver this impactful program in New Mexico and beyond. So thank you all for attending, and I'll turn this back over to Tekla.
Great, thank you. So for those of you who are joining a little late or who are watching this online, just to sort of reorient, we're presenting a little bit about the basics of home visiting, specifically talking some about Firstborn. I'm going to share a little bit. Katrin kind of did the very high level. I'm going to kind of go in a little bit closer, and then Molly will really get into what is home visiting, what is Firstborn, with some of the more details of how that works for people who are watching who aren't as familiar with home visiting. And then we will be watching a video where parents talk about the impact of home visiting on them in their personal lives. So, and then Q&A. So just so you all know where we're heading from here. So following on what Katrin said, home visiting is a really powerful way to support families during the early years of children's lives. And Firstborn started before, and a lot of home visiting in the state started before funding became widely available from the state. And I just think we're so lucky to have a universal home visiting program in almost every county in New Mexico, primarily funded and fully supported by the Early Childhood Education and Care Department. And to me, offering home visiting to families with young children is a way to say, we care about you, we're glad you're living here, raising your children here in our community, and we're here to support you. And I'm really proud of the work that's being done on behalf of families in the state, especially through home visiting. So Firstborn has always been a universal model available to any family in a community. First, who had a child who's under 3, now under 5, since the expansion happened last summer. And I hear people from outside of New Mexico often saying that they wish they lived in New Mexico with their young children because most places don't have this availability that we've got here. Many places have more eligibility requirements where people really need to meet those in order to get this kind of support. And the reason Firstborn started with a universal model, and I think why the state here also has it, is based on the idea that there's just so much transition in these first couple of months and years, from conception to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, those first couple of years. There's very few families that get through those huge changes without any kind of challenge or need for support. And so I'm really proud of what we do in New Mexico and the home visiting that we have here. And I love that Firstborn started with this idea. I used to work in early Head Start, so was always working with those eligibility requirements. And it was really fun to see how home visiting supported all families when I got to move to Firstborn. Research really supports that home visiting is powerful for all families. In a research project that was conducted about Firstborn and published in 2016, home visiting showed the same positive health outcomes regardless for all families, not depending on income or education. And Dr. Rebecca Kilburn, who was the lead investigator in that study, will be with us today at 4 talking about that if you want to learn more about that research. But I thought that was really surprising and wonderful to see that the benefits of home visiting are really cutting across all families with all different situations. Home visiting supports families in the areas of health, nutrition, access to resources, child development, learning, play, emotional and mental health. Even during the pandemic, which disrupted so many things for families, home visiting just continued on from one week to the next. Those of you who are home visitors know you switched from doing in-person visits to telehealth. And I think home visiting has been really nimble to be able to do that across our state. Firstborn really values heart-centered practice with an evidence-based curriculum that's delivered through attuned interactions and supporting relationship building with families and empowerment of families through that process. Home visitors always share about topics of interest to families, and they use conversation and curriculum to do that. During my 9 years as a home visitor, with early Head Start and then with Firstborn, and then more than 10 years in leadership positions, I've witnessed the power of home visiting, and I'm excited to spend this week with you talking and thinking together about home visiting. So as a way to transition into the next piece, we're going to show some slides that talk about home visiting in general. What is it? How does it work? And some specifics about how we do this at Firstborn, just as an example. Give me a moment here to get the slides started. Okay. So every home visiting model has curriculum or written material that they use or reference. In Firstborn, we use the Firstborn curriculum, and that has been vetted and reviewed by our medical director, pediatrician, Dr. Amy Williams, who's also speaking later this week. We've infused FAN completely. A lot of folks across the state who are home visitors have this training from Erickson Institute in Chicago, facilitating attuned interactions. But in Firstborn, we're able to have that for all of the staff. Within a year of hire, everyone gets FAN training. Most people across the state also rely on Circle of Security information and bring that into home visits. And then everyone is really looking to these reliable sources of information to help families with their questions 0 to 3, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the CDC. And in all models, again, people are trained. Firstborn specifically will work with anybody who wants to be a home visitor and has got those skills of warmth and friendliness, some capacity to be non-judgmental. That can always be built more, and really finding folks who live in the community and then training people from there in 28 competencies that we find to be foundational for home visiting, helping people to learn to screen and recognize challenges that families might need referrals for. Across the state, we're providing in all home visiting programs, home visiting in many different languages. Here's in the slide is listed some of the languages that we share our curriculum in Firstborn in. And that people who don't have these backgrounds, many people do have backgrounds in some of these areas like public health, early childhood, but if folks don't, that they really get full training. And from here, Molly will take us through some of the other details of like, what is home visiting? What are we bringing and how are we prepared for it?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Tekla, for showcasing the importance of home visiting in early childhood, and Katrin for sharing novel ways of opening access to home visiting in higher education. I'm, for those of you who joined a little bit later, I'm Molly McBranch. I work as a contractor at the Santa Fe Community College with the Firstborn program model. And I'm going to talk about the Firstborn model, but as you listen, you'll also hear about the many similarities between Firstborn and other national home visiting models, because essentially at their core, at the home visiting programs at their core, early childhood home visiting they all come from the same nexus, and that's to nurture families by supporting and promoting relationships in early childhood. So on this slide, you can see that we've been around, Firstborn has been around for a long time, 25 years in New Mexico. It was founded by Vicki Johnson, and together with her pediatrician husband, they developed the original curriculum. In 2018, the program moved to the community college, the Santa Fe Community College, and is housed in the Early Childhood Center of Excellence on the college's kids campus. And you can see we're number of counties in New Mexico, 4 pueblos, and we've got Minnesota on the map too. And we have a total of 54 home visitors and 6 program managers. So we can take a look at the hallmarks of the firstborn model, but again, please keep in mind that all national home visiting programs have similar qualities you see listed on this slide, which is a commitment to prevention and promotion. A firstborn value and a home visiting value is to support families to raise children who are resilient, happy, and healthy. And so how do we do this? Sounds like a big goal, because as you know, parenting can be hard work. But we do it by focusing on what is going right in the family and helping parents discover joy in everyday moments. So that sounds great, right? But exactly what happens in a home visit where parents and children find this attunement and joy in their relationships? Well, first of all, even before a visit starts, we have eligibility criteria, which might sound like a heavy lift, but as you look at these bullet points, the criteria are designed to make access as easy as possible. And so ideally, we like to start working with a family in pregnancy or shortly after the birth of the baby. And the reason for this is the birth of a baby is a critical time in a family's life when parents are open to learning new ideas. They are often thinking about how they were parented and what they'd like to change in that. It's a time of reflection and hope. And when a home visitor is part of that new beginning, it can be transformational for families. So as Tekla talked about, a unique aspect and a real gift to home visiting is that services are provided at no cost and are voluntary. So when you remove barriers to enrollment, families are open to building a trusting relationship with their home visitor. And when a family chooses to join a home visiting program, they are more likely to be actively involved in home visits and are more open to learning about the growth and development of their child. And then finally, families can stay in the program until they're 5, until their child is 5. And we have curriculum that supports from prenatal up to 5 years of age. So let's take a look at home visit. What does it look like? Ideally, home visits take place on a regular basis. Conversations are strength-based and non-judgmental, focusing on the use of reflective questions to help parents gain deeper understanding of behavioral issues. They learn about different learning patterns, and we talk about lifestyle choices too. The curriculum and assessments brought to the visits support activities both inside and outside the home, and curriculum helps with important short-term and long-term goal setting. Of course, all this is accomplished because home visitors set the tone by remaining curious, being flexible and open to rapidly changing situations within the home. So for example, a home visitor might have their bag packed for a discussion on fine motor skills. But when the visit starts, the family expresses a concern about safety, and they only want to talk about baby-proofing the home. So the home visitor must have the skill set to rapidly switch gears to meet the family's needs in that particular moment. So really, home visitors are the glue in home visiting, and being able to evaluate a situation and respond appropriately is a key personality attribute for home visitors. So who can benefit? Well, every family, right? Every family can benefit. And when parents gain new insights into their child's behavior and feel supported in their community, they feel empowered to deepen relationships, and they become comfortable taking on new challenges that can bring opportunities for personal growth, not only to the parents or the caregivers, but also for their children. On the next slide, you'll see the home visiting outcomes. These are home visiting outcomes, not just for firstborn, but statewide. And there are 5 of them, and we strive for these every single day. So I wanted to remind you to put your questions in chat, and we'll have a short Q&A at the end. And so now we're going to watch a short video of parents who received home visiting services through firstborn programs. But again, what you'll hear are, this applies to all parental experiences and all home visiting models. So sit back and enjoy the next, it's about 12 or 13 minutes in length. And also, if there's a little bit of lag on when you're watching the video, you might try turning off your camera. That might improve the viewing quality. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So Madi, you're going to cue the video?
Yes, I will.
Thanks.
It was completely a great experience. I was really young with my first daughter. I didn't have any support system. Now I understand what does that mean, but before I don't even have the idea to understand what important is that, right, for a mom or for a parent. With my first child, and then having all my family members far away and just me here, and have that person I can trust and ask questions and she can listen. It was more than anything, it was kind of safe place.
I know that I have somebody objectively I can fall back on as a resource that isn't my mom, isn't my dad, isn't a friend, to listen and not sort of insert their own experience, I guess, into the situation.
They come to the house and give you resources straight to your door. At any point, my home visitor I can call and I can text, and she will be right there right away as soon as she can.
During the home visitor program, or doing the home visitor program, allowed us to kind of set aside time each week to really focus on my child's milestones and to be able to kind of ask specific questions about things that were going on in our life at the time, milestones or challenges with sort of each developmental age that she would reach. And it was really helpful to talk about those day-to-day challenges that I didn't necessarily have a chance to talk to the pediatrician about, or to really connect with other people about. So just being able to ask questions as they came up in a really kind of comfortable, familiar place in our own home. And it kind of forced me to stop and think about like some of the highlights and some of the challenges of parenting.
I have a lot of family and a lot of friends, but it was nice to have someone that I didn't know or no one else had any association with to ask some uncomfortable questions or kind of get a different perspective.
I like the fact that Firstborn offers somebody like a home visitor to come in who can be objective and just listen and just be like, sometimes I just need a sounding board of, am I crazy? Is this normal what I'm going through? Is this, have you heard of this happening? And, a lot of times our family and friends can love us so much that they want to be so involved. And sometimes that's not what you need. And so.
Yeah, it was like big deal for me. Like every time she come home, I was like expecting her. And I hate it when I have to cancel it. It just get to that really great experience and that close relationship.
It also includes the perks of having her resources, and she's very informative with my son and the way she helps me with transitions through taking away the bottle, all that stuff when I didn't know what to do.
So I liked that, and it was really nice to see for them to see her, and it was my daughter in her environment, and to see she was they brought it to her, so she was really comfortable in that environment, especially during COVID, which we couldn't do the home visiting. It was nice to even do Zoom and actually have somewhere for her to something normal or someone that she actually knew.
I think it reinforced the good things I was doing as a parent. I think a lot of parents really question their abilities, and, especially with a first child, not really sure if they know what they're doing, but it really reinforced that I was doing the right things, that I had good attachment with my child, and that she was meeting her milestones. I love that it can be kind of personalized to the child. There's a curriculum that we follow based on development, but it also could be specific to whatever our needs were. So, for example, when I was looking at different preschool programs for my daughter, the home visitor would go look some things up and come back with a list of resources. So really, whatever my questions or challenges were, she could come with a list of resources or give me a place to find more information.
What Betty has changed in my life while participating in this program is how my parenting styles and how I can adjust them to fit better my child's needs. My child has sensory issues, and she has looked up resources and advised me how to handle all his needs.
They gave me so much knowledge about and resources about parenting, because no one knows what they're doing the first time. And there were times when I'd be like, okay, I don't know what I'm getting, and then something new would pop up. And I really liked the discipline or the way to kind of parent your children that came, I think, in the first or the second year. I think that was really nice. A good way to start. It was the circle of security, a good way to start kind of introducing that, which led to some other reading, which was really good. And then it just helped me get confidence, and also helped my husband when I would share with him in our parenting, and then reassured me when I really thought I wasn't being a good parent, that it was okay. I definitely find myself it was also nice in a busy life to have 1 hour just dedicated to her.
Doesn't it sometimes feel like therapy for an hour a week, or however frequently you see them? And it does, because you're kind of just offloading everything that's in your mom brain for a little bit, and to somebody who just gets it and is there for that reason, of just examples of not inserting myself too much in playtime and not showing them the quote unquote right way to do something. So, this I don't know, this toy, this is how you're supposed to play with this toy. Just making sure that I understand, this is independent play. This is something that they are going to do with what they want to, because they're still learning what things do. They're still exploring. I need to back off a little bit and let them do what it is that they want. And until it gets to a point where it's not safe anymore, that's where I draw the line of saying no, and I step in, right? I think that having that offering of Circle of Security and that program that's just been really invaluable in helping me to understand my kids. It's putting a name to a lot of the things that we go through emotionally.
It's so many things. I just kind of opened the door to so many resources, information, positive parenting skills, reflecting, all these things. And I guess my mom tried to do with me as a child. I never got it right, or I didn't understand it since when I have this home visitor, and I received that support and that information, and then also knowing that she cared about my daughter. That makes you start building new expectations. You're pushing yourself to be better.
And my home visitor was just always so enthusiastic about coming to see us. She always seemed excited to be there. And I imagine she was like that for all of the families she visited. And this really made it fun. And I remember a part of really reflecting on my own upbringing and things I want to do that my parents did and things I don't want to do that my parents did. And I think it made me feel more confident in my parenting style and in the strategies I was using to connect with my child. It gave me reassurance that I was doing the right thing. This is my time that I'm connecting with my child and my home visitor, and I'm not going to be doing other things. And we're just going to talk about my child and ask my questions and go over some curriculum.
I would just encourage them to. It was really supportive, and it just really helped our family grow. And yeah, I guess I would just say that we had an amazing experience, and I would encourage them to trust someone to come into their family. My sister just had her first, and we encouraged her to do. I think she's already signed up.
What I would say to my friends, if they were thinking of getting a home visitor, was to definitely get one. It's a great support, and Betty has always been there every time. I could call her, I could text her, and she'll answer as soon as she can.
I think just that everybody needs help with parenting. Still, I think it was important to have someone coming to my house every couple weeks and just seeing how we were doing. And, you know, a lot of people are susceptible to postpartum depression, and a lot of things can happen in that first year. And so I think it's important to be checking in and just to accept all the help and support that the community offers.
Is having that component as part of my village to raise my kid has been just invaluable, because it sheds a different perspective and light on any situation. I know that for me, I err on the side of making sure they're safe, making sure they're secure. I'm always the one that's like, no, don't climb too high. Be careful. Watch out for this. Watch out for that. And oftentimes, like, yeah, you're right. People who love our kids as much as we do can sometimes maybe be blinded by that so much that you forget to push them a little harder, and that no, it's okay. You can try to let Idris try to pull himself up on the dishwasher. Like, it's okay. Like, he's gonna be fine. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. You know, it's these little reminders that it's just like, oh, I don't know if my family or friends would feel comfortable enough, like, suggesting that or prodding me a little bit more, or prodding my kids a little bit more to do that. You know.
Then a home visitor will be that person is gonna be on your side. She's gonna be the person you can complain about it, and she's not gonna judge you. Not necessarily choose your sides, right? Because there's a mom and a dad, and always parents involved. But it's just, you're gonna have somebody to cheer for you. I think I can see the impact in her. You know, she's really independent. She's like super funny, and she knows how to set boundaries to her own, to people. Like, she's super confident. It takes like questions that you will have as a parent, right? But having a person to talk to about it and reflect into it, and then share that, or share little things there as a parent, they're really important, give you kind of that safety place for you.
It doesn't matter if you are like an 18-year-old parent, or if you're a 43-year-old parent, or anything in between. It doesn't matter if you have a high school education or a doctorate degree. Everybody kind of has the same challenges. And so it really just kind of meets parents where they're at, I think.
Great. Thanks, Madi.
You're welcome.
All right. So thank you all for being present for what we had to share and that video. I love seeing that and hearing from the parents directly. And we do have some time as we wrap up here for question and answers or comments. Feel free to put something in the chat. I know several of you here are home visitors. Some others of you, I'm not sure what your connections are necessarily to families, but we'd love to hear if you have any questions, comments, your own experience that you want to add. Just feel free to unmute and jump in if somebody's brave enough to add a comment. I can also give a couple minutes for those of you who need a little time to type. Mary.
I'm going to stay off screen. I've been sick, and so I apologize for the quality of my voice. So if I start coughing, sincere apologies.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I did not want to miss it. There was a slide and a comment about how home visitors connect people to community resources. And I just wondered if you could spend a few moments talking about what some of those resources might be and how, I apologize, my alert just went off. And how if, I work in early intervention, and so how early intervention and home visiting might work together for the benefit of our families as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yeah, I'll share a little bit from Santa Fe perspective because that's where I worked all my years. Pretty much I did a little bit on the early intervention side in Albuquerque, but in Santa Fe, I was on the home visiting side. And so home visiting, we do regular screenings, usually the ASQ as a developmental screening for children on a regular basis, every couple of months, every 6 months. And if there was like a developmental concern that showed up on that screening, or the parent was just worried about something, we would always make a referral to early intervention. And so in Santa Fe, what that often looked like, we had a very strong relationship with our early intervention agency where they would have speech therapists, occupational, those of you who don't know exactly what early intervention is, they've got all the therapists who can help with development. And so we would make the referral. Sometimes I would even go and sort of help with the translation or help with language if I had a Spanish speaking family. So I was usually there at the multidisciplinary evaluations. We'd also be working carefully with the early intervention agency around timelines, just making sure that the referral tracked and moved quickly to an evaluation. So it was really collaborative from the beginning. Again, usually I or the home visitor of that family would go to the evaluation if we could. And then from there, we would try to join the plan creation, the IFSP. We would go to that meeting, ideally have the home visitor as part of that plan. Like, what could the home visitor do to support what was happening with the developmental supports with speech or physical therapy? And then really staying close to that. Sometimes I would also go on home visits with some of those early intervention therapists to support what was happening. So in the case of early intervention, at least in our county, we really worked hard to develop those relationships. Like, they don't always just start out like that, but we really tried to make it very collaborative and supportive so that I would be supporting what therapists were doing. They'd know what I was up to, so we weren't duplicating. And I think in a lot of ways, any referral that we make in home visiting, we try to have a release of information so we can talk to, whether it's a therapist, for the parent, domestic violence support groups for a parent, whatever it might be out there in the community, or like if we refer people to toddler music at the library, we'll often try to go with them for that first time to make it less scary to try something new, or maybe if it's the first time for them going to the library, not so intimidating to go. So usually referrals are based on sort of needs that are determined or seen, request by the parent, definitely permission by the parent, and then we try to make it pretty collaborative as we move forward to ensure that families say yes to that. Anybody else have, another question? Somebody else could answer it. It doesn't need to be me, but we only have a couple minutes left, so I wanted to make sure that if anybody else had a comment or a question. I see in the chat, I can get my chat not to move so quickly. Julia is here from our IT department, or our online learning. Not really IT, sorry. Julia's not really, but she's at Santa Fe Community College. How cool. Thanks for coming. She helps us with everything we do. And so it's fun to have you here, Julia. let's see, there's a question here too. So if anybody wants to get in touch with, our office, maybe Molly can put quickly in the chat we've got 2 different websites. We've got our model office website, and we also have our Training Institute website. Both of those have information about what we're up to. The Firstborn site also has an entire map of New Mexico. So if you're in an area in New Mexico where we don't have Firstborn, we have other home visiting, you can find home visiting on that New Mexico map, learn more about it in your specific community. And, we also welcome folks who want to know more about Firstborn, want to become Firstborn, any of those kinds of questions, we're happy to answer. And we look forward to seeing you at the other sessions this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We've got Dr. Rebecca Kilburn, researcher, talking about research and home visiting.
Molly, I think Tekla froze. Do you have the rest of the agenda for the week to talk through?
You're on mute, Molly.
Looks like Tekla is back.
Somebody else can take it. Thank you.
We missed most of what you were saying, Tekla.
Oh no.
Yeah, you froze. So maybe if you just wanted to talk through the rest of the week's agenda, and maybe we can put in the chat if people haven't registered for the other sessions, how they could register.
Yes, thank you. So sorry. I have the wangy internet sometimes. So yeah, this afternoon is Dr. Rebecca Kilburn talking about research and home visiting, specifically also talking about how telehealth, what the research is that's coming out about telehealth and how that impacts services. So really cutting edge recent research that's relevant to what we're up to in home visiting right now. Tomorrow, we've got Rebecca Riley coming and talking about culturally respectful and responsive practices. She's an advocate for home visiting from across, she works statewide, has a lot to say that's really important. Lots of stuff happening this week, so check out our Firstborn website. That's where you can find the list of things that are happening, and please do join us for anything and everything that looks interesting to you. We look forward to seeing you at future sessions. Thank you so much. And if you need a certificate of attendance, I saw that in the chat, just email Madi and we'll work on that with you. Thanks.
Thank you.